Hello, everybody, and welcome to my Essential Messages. My name is Bobbie Richardson. Today, we are going to be chatting about the origins of life, like the beginning of all creation. And the reason why I can have a chat to you guys about this is because I've had these really incredible experiences, and I want to share with you those experiences first before we get into the ins and outs of creation. I had an out-of-body experience in 2020, and when it happened, I started to realize that I was actually moving not only past the limits of my body, the limits of this world, but I just kept going until I reached a point of existence that would be considered source energy, oneness, prime creator, God itself, energy, in an energy vortex. And it looked very much like this. And I saw at the same time, this is in 2020 when it was just starting to, have a hoo-ha. Earth or humanities, consciousness entering this vortex. And it's really interesting, like, we have this reality where everything is outside of us. It is a mere reflection of this vortex, and I've noticed it's absolutely everywhere in creation. And starting from a seed, the split of a cell, right up to the galaxies and our solar system. Everything seems to have this pinpoint reference where something enters into this reality, like the point of existence. Say, for instance, you take a cell that's going to split and split and split into many little balls, forming the flower of life. But it has to have this point of existence, like it's bursting into this life from this point of existence, whether it ends up becoming a baby or an animal or a plant. So in 2020, I had an out-of-body experience where I become one with more than just my body. I literally, my soul left my body and became more my family, more. I started to understand more about more than just myself. But the only way that I could handle that was to become the observer of it. So I become the observer of my neighborhood, and then the observer of my town. So each time it expanded out, and I become more than, I had to become the observer of it. So then, in becoming the observer of it, I ended up expanding even more, and it just kept taking me out. So I became the town, and then I became the city, and then I became the country, and it's all from my own point of reference and how I felt all of this was, but it was the only way that I could handle it was to become the observer of it. Then I became the observer of the earth, and then the observer of the solar system, and then the observer of many solar systems, and then the universe, the galaxies and the universe. And it just kept going out even further than that. And finally, I got to this point of reference where it was I was involved or the observer of this torus donut shape. And it was 2020, at the beginning of 2020, when I had this experience, and I literally saw, they showed me Gaia herself entering the funnel of this vortex. And that's why we were going through such interesting time where humanity was being almost squeezed into looking at themselves, and where they had, I wouldn't call it gone wrong, but lost their awareness of just how magnificent and beautiful they are from source energy's point of view, or oneness's point of view. So I saw this spark in the center of this vortex that was just love. It was just pure essence of love, and it was wanting to go on a journey, and it split itself into two fractions, just like a cell would, just like a seed would, and then it ended up having all these fractions coming out of it and going on this journey. So the journey itself ends up being, if you see it from a seed's point of view, in this reality, you see that vortex everywhere. It ends up going in different journeys. So it could be that the journey would be a plant, and so the seed will grow into leaves, and then the leaves will fall into the ground, and then the ground would absorb the leaves, and then the nutrients would fuel the creation, and so forth and so forth. Same with the trees, and I had this understanding that everything became its own self-realization of its avatar or body that it created through intention or focus of what it wanted to experience, and everything was source energy. So in this world that we live in, we see that vortex everywhere. In every plant life, in every animal, there is that vortex. Even in the humans, and how humans, we consume food, and we let go of food or the waste, and then it's supposed to go into the earth, and then we grow the plants, and then we eat the plants, and then we consume the energy again, and we have this vortex happening within us, and we're our own self-sustaining vortex of energy. And that's the difference too between where Earth herself has a sustaining vortex, and she has, like the North and the South Pole, she has this energy that goes in and out of her as well, and it's like in the core essence of herself is her spark of consciousness. Staying with humanity, and also within our brain, we have exactly the same. At the center of our brain, we have this pineal gland, and I think we have at the center of our body, there's this a core. I'm no scientist or anything, but there's this core essence of ourselves that is connected to many parts, or every part of our body. But we also have this energy that of consuming and letting go of. When we only take one essence of ourselves is more important than the other, we become very unbalanced, and then we are subject to the fear game. We're subject to feeling like we can't handle this reality, that we're a victim to it rather than creator of it. Any case, this day I became one with this vortex, and then as it entered into the center of love, I recognized humanity's consciousness had already gone on a massive journey of learning all about their right hemisphere and their intuitive side of their self, connection to their soul, feminine side, and then they went on another, they split from that as they went further and further away from the central point of love itself, and their journey turned into learning all about logical side, but everything will end up becoming consumed again. And that's where we're at now. Our consciousness is in this point of going through this funnel and being consumed by ourselves. So we're facing off with everything that doesn't resonate with who we are at the authentic level of ourselves. And who we are is love itself, going on a journey. So as the more that we can shed within ourselves, that we don't need to become victim to anybody else, that we are creators of our reality, and we take responsibility for the energy that we carry, the thoughts that we think, the actions that we do. When we start to take responsibility for all of that, and we settle into that feeling of everything is going to be okay, because I trust the essence of my self-love wanting to take me on a journey that is conducive to me, then you will start to go on that journey. But getting back to this essence is absolutely everywhere. It is in every plant and shells, animals who have their own vortex of creation, but they're still connected energetically to Gaia, to Earth, and they're still connected to source energy as well. So they are what they are. They don't have any rulings or anything telling them that they are something different than what they are. There's nothing been programmed into them to tell them that, an ant will always act as an ant, a cat will always act as a cat, but humans tend to act as something else tells us to. So we've literally been held hostage by these other beings that are very into consumerism, and they don't have the strong connection to the essence of their soul, which is love. So even when you look into a sunflower, there's a certain pattern that happens in that sunflower, and same with a shower. There's this Fibonacci sequence pattern. Why? Because it keeps twirling from the inside point and then expanding out. If you took that Taurus energy that sucks in and then it comes out on a journey, and you flipped it up so that you can only see it going inwards, then you will see a cycle of life that's happening, because it can also be a cycle that goes in from the inside, smaller, into larger and larger circles coming out. And that's what makes that spiral pattern of the Fibonacci sequence. It all ends up starting from one point of existence. And they've literally shown me, even to come into this reality, we have to come at the smallest point of energy, a spark of consciousness that is entering into a material world and forming or creating that at that point, the seed or the cell that bursts into life. So we see also that it goes through our solar system, where the sun is the central point and the planets are going around. The sun is actually doing a spiral as well, and a spiral that goes around the galaxy. So we might have the spiral of the sun doing this, and then our planets are going around it like this. Then they showed me every little thing, every living thing. It didn't matter what it was. It always started from a seed point of view, and then it gave more energy to one arm or one leg or something like that, or it gave more energy to certain parts of its material body. But at the essence of self, we are just this point of consciousness expanding into creating this avatar, whatever avatar it is that source energy chooses to go through. Or your soul is source energy, so it's your choice in the end, and your thoughts and the way that how you feel about yourself is a massive meant to be a massive reflection of source energy's empowerment. So when source energy goes on a journey through the origins of humanity's consciousness, and it is a new thing for source energy to become in this world, of this world, with this body, there is this vulnerability that happens, and the vulnerability can sometimes carve a story of feeling like it's not the magnificent self that it started off with. It ends up creating a story that makes us feel like, or source energy or our souls feel like, we are less than. And then we have to go on this evolutional journey of the soul to find out that, oh, hang on a sec, we forgot we are actually source energy going on this journey. So everything that we're shedding now is to shed all of the self-doubts of who we are, because there is absolutely nothing in this reality that you cannot change. There is absolutely nothing in this reality that you cannot say, I don't want that anymore, and show me another path. It doesn't matter, even if it is the most fearful. What happens if you do feel like you are a victim to somebody else, say for instance going to hurt you or something, that's when you end up getting knocked down. That's when you end up having problems, because you've as source energy has given the power away to some other part of source energy, some other being that's exactly meant to be equal as you. So that's why I know that there is nothing in this world that we cannot change. But we just have to stand in our power and say, no, that's not how the story is going to go. That's not where I'm going to take this. That's not what I'm accepting in my life. And I'm only accepting this abundance. I'm only accepting this love around me. Yeah. So we have a tree, and a tree has this root system that's connected to Gaia herself. And they showed me, if you turn the tree with its roots on its side, then we literally have the two hemispheres of our brain. And one is like the root, where it's the logical side, and it's stable and it stays grounded in this reality. It is the part of ourselves that creates this reality. And it feeds itself off Gaia. And then it creates through itself, through sucking up nutrients, it creates the trunk and the leaves and all that, or the berries or the flowers or whatever it is that it's creating as the plant or the tree. And then the berries and that will fall one day, and then it will return to the earth, and then the roots will suck it up. And the same too goes for our brain when we turn it up on its side. That sort of diagram of a tree on its side, we can literally find the essence of the spark of itself in the pineal gland. And we need to have that grounding side of ourselves that keeps us in this reality, so that we can have a lineal story. But it needs to find nutrients. So it finds nutrients from feeding stories to it and then it will ground them. So where's that come from? It comes from the right hemisphere, and the right hemisphere and its imagination, and being able to carve new paths. So we have this collaboration of allowing our imagination to grow wild, like any possibility is possible. And then the logical brain will go, I love that idea, let's ground it into this reality, become that. And show me the path to take me there. And that's why anything is possible that you can imagine. So if I'm going to get into the pineal gland, the pineal gland is what they call the seat of the soul, or where the soul's point existence resides within our minds, within our brains. A conscious awareness of ourselves. And it can be accessed to be able to carve and create brand new stories, but of amazing magical things. But it cannot be entered into unless we have this balance between the logical mind and the intuitive mind. If you if you think that the logical mind is more important than how you feel about yourself, if you feel that material world is more important than the spiritual side of yourself, then you're out of balance. If you feel like logic is more important than intuition and imagination, then you're out of balance. And so you won't be able to enter this where the seat of the soul really resides. And then you can't open up these gifts. You will always be subject to somebody else telling you how to live your life. And in other words, you are fueling somebody else's reality. You're not fueling your own anymore. So this alignment with us and humanity's consciousness going into this vortex is lining us up with the spark of consciousness itself that resides within us. And that is the origin of everything. And so then that spark, when we reach that point of existence within ourselves, and that can only be felt through absolute self-satisfaction, loving self, and feeling really good about oneself. And that doesn't mean that bad things won't happen. It doesn't mean that, we won't have resistance. But it's when we ride through those points in our life, knowing full well that this too will pass, knowing full well that I won't be staying here forever, consciously recognizing that we can shift it whenever we're ready to shift it, that we don't have to hold on to those thoughts anymore, that we have the capacity to use our imagination and carve a new path instead of following what the logical mind stories are telling us and looping us back into problems or whatever again. We're no longer riding that wave of just perpetually going around in one solid circle. We are allowing things to be consumed within us, our thoughts to be consumed, and letting them go and exploring new ones. And when we start to learn to do that, we will have this more of a peaceful mind, because we know that we are in control of this, and that we and more of a peaceful mind and more of a self-satisfaction with our life. And we won't feel so anxious and depressed, which is only the logical mind trying to make sense of the past and the future. And the past and the future, from a soul's point of view, has never existed. It has only ever been in the present situation. So when we recognize the soul as being present, we have to align up with that presence. We have to line up with living in the moment, to be able to access that. And to be in the moment means that we don't have the anxiousness or the depression of trying to fix the past that we can't fix, or project into the future and worry about it. That doesn't exist anymore when we come from a pure essence of this moment. Even when things have gone wrong, they have only gone wrong very quickly, usually only quickly, and then it shifts to something else and something else and something else, But it's our minds, our logical minds, that have been holding on to or grasping that problem, and then it didn't know how to change it, so it overprotected it. And it overprotected it by holding on to the thoughts over and over. Instead, we can say, it's okay, let the story go. It's gone. It's not here in this moment. Let's see what's happening in this moment. Let's be more present with my life. And then the self-satisfaction starts to happen. You can enter the pineal gland, which is the source of energy itself, and then you can start to use your imagination to carve the path that you want, no longer being held by fractions outside of you, or people outside of you, or non-beings even outside of you that have been programming you into their story and telling you how you have to live. Now you can say, no, I'm taking full responsibility for my story, and I know my worth, and I'm worth more than this, and so be it. This universe is my universe. This is my perception of my thoughts and my universe, so I can carve my own path. I can take that essence of who I am and see myself as source energy going on a journey and carve a completely different path here. And I can bring in love if I want. I can bring in abundance. The universe bends to my will because my will is the spark of consciousness. It's no longer hijacked by somebody else telling you that you are a victim to life and you are small. You are not a victim to life and you are not small. That is just a warped program that's been pulled over your eyes. So when we return back to the essence of knowing that we are all source energy going on a journey, we also accept death as well as part of that journey. And that means when we have an acceptance of death, we have an acceptance of life, and we can really enjoy ourselves as well. So the creation, the origin of everything is love. It is that first conscious spark that decided to create. And from that became all of this, became everything that you can see, hear, and experience now in this world. And it is not something to fight. It is not against you. It loves you just as you are love itself. And so we have to start to move through it like that, like an innocent child would. That's why when you look in a baby's eyes, you just see the innocence and love. And you can feel that. You can feel when a child speaks, even if it is something that you wouldn't be able to accept, you know it's come from somewhere that is of such innocence, you have to take notice of it. This world that we have created is absolutely beautiful. And there's so much more to explore once we start to realize the origins of ourselves is just love going on a journey through this body. And everything else is just a resistance to the fact that we are that magnificent. It's pretty exciting where we are going. And it's not to say that I would judge anybody else's thoughts on the origin of life or whatever, or source energy or prime creator or whatever, or how they want to experience their life. I cannot judge anyone else on their decisions and where that goes, because source energy wants to experience that story, then so be it. But I wanted to cut straight to the truth. I wanted to cut into the precise truth. So when I asked my guides, whenever I ask my guides, I honestly empty my mind. I just say, I don't know. If what I was taught was true, so be it. If, at school, if that's what the truth is, so be it. I'm prepared to hear it. If it's a crazy story, so be it. If it's a boring story, so be it. I just want to cut to the truth. And I would advise that for you. So if you are wanting to know more about your existence, and maybe get some more confirmation from others, then this is how I did it. I just asked for outside confirmation to come to me, but I completely let go of any story that I thought was the truth. And also the truth is something to never hold on to too tight, because sometimes the truth can be something that we need for the evolution of our soul. In that moment, it's a stepping stone up to something else that when you look back, you go, oh, man, that's not the truth anymore, but that's okay. It was a stepping stone towards something else. So see the truth as a flowing river. It doesn't have to be something that you hold on to so tightly and then you tell everybody this is absolute. This is what I was shown, and when I asked for humanities consciousness, and they're telling me that this is a way out. The way that my story has been gifted to me because it is a way out. It's a way back home. It doesn't mean that other stories aren't also a way back home that are completely opposing my story. Doesn't matter. So long as we all return back to love of self and understand who we are at the spark of self, that consciousness point that we are empowering ourselves. We're coming back into what is that called? We're coming back into self-mastery. We're coming back into self-support, where we don't need for anyone else but ourselves to take ourselves on our own journey. We are learning to trust ourselves, and we're learning to teach our children and our children's children to trust themselves, that they have a spark or essence within them that's going to drive them on a journey, that's going to take them into the mastering themselves and become self-sufficient within their own energy, not just within their own body and what they consume and how much abundance they have within them, but their own, how they feel about themselves as well. They become self-sufficient. So yeah, what I've been taught, because I was always focusing on this dream that they gave me when I went into the potential new earth, I knew that was where I wanted to go, which was a very still, peaceful mind when I was there. So to return back to that, which I felt was more home for me to be in than this that I'm in now. So it had nothing to do with what was surrounding me, although many things surrounding us are a natural reflection of who we are, how we feel about ourselves, rather. It was more to do with how I felt about my own inner self as I moved through my life, and how can I accept when things weren't going so well. Can I just ride through them and not attach to them, and allow the story to evolve into something else that's more conducive for me, rather than trying to overprotect it and hold on to it, which ended up stunting my growth and everybody else that does that. That's what happens. So this was a story given to me that could help us return home. And they said, they're saying to me, there is more beyond the vortex. There's more beyond that vortex, but it is enough for humanity's consciousness to evolve or return home. And that's the most important point at the moment, because we are literally going through this eye of the needle, which I called one of my albums back in 2000, The Eye of the Needle. And they said that it's threading ourselves through source energy's consciousness, which is a reflection of just love itself. So the only way that we can meet that is to become love within ourselves. And then we can start to imagine through that love of self a whole brand new reality and ground it here on earth, because we're walking this earth knowing that we can change the story whenever we decide, that we don't have to follow somebody else's rules anymore. But because it is so strong on the outside, how they've held us bound into the societal structure, sometimes it's going to be easier to change the story within our dreams, or change the story as lucid dreaming, or within our meditations, or within our just imagination. And then the best way to do that is to say, this is where I'm going. I know where I'm going, and then let go of how it actually happens. And then every time something happens where you feel like you're sucked back into the system, just see it as part of the story. See it as, okay, well, today I have to do my taxes, but I'm just seeing it as part of my story of evolving me out of this. Until eventually we will see the downfall of the structure that's holding us hostage, because we're no longer projecting. A majority of humanity's consciousness will no longer be projecting it outside themselves. Yeah. So anyway, the most important thing with this clip that I'm talking about is to go on this journey of self-realization that you are a whole being, that you have this vortex within you of energy within you, that you can shift the story whenever you want within your mind, and that you are completely entangled. You are source energy. You are God itself, prime creator. You are this Taurus. Because in the end of all of that, when I became this beautiful Taurus shape and understood, I become the observer of it and saw everything. When I got sucked back into love of self, I got sucked back into my body, and then I become myself again. But then I was seeing through the eyes of oneness for a whole morning. I was like, oh my gosh, I've created all of this. I've created everything. Like, I literally could feel from the vibrational MEET of oneness that all that was around me was something that I created, and all I could see was beauty. It didn't matter if it was a telephone pole. It didn't matter if it was a car. It didn't matter if it was a road. It didn't matter if it was whatever it was, grass, blade of grass, or anything. I just saw source energy, creation, and I saw it as my own creation in that point, that reference point. So that meant that being the central point of my own creation, I could change it. If I really truly wanted to, I could change it. And I think that's where that message comes into play, where they say you can move mountains. When you become at one with yourself, you could move mountains. And I do believe that's literally how things can shift. If I think of anything else, no. Okay, so thank you so much for all your time with me, and I hope that you've learned something from this and a better understanding about that Taurus shape, that prime creative source energy, God itself, aligning with everything from a galaxy to a solar system to Earth to your body to a plant to a shell, to everything has this point of existence, that core essence of itself that is alive, that is a spark of consciousness. And through that awareness, we can understand, through that spark of self-love, that we can shift the story. And together, humanity's consciousness can shift the story. Okay, so I'll leave you with that. Bye.